Hello guys and welcome to the Neil Rennie Coaching Education Series. Today I'm going to talk about how to manage the post-show / post-shoot period. Obviously there's similarities in both in terms of how lean someone is going to diet down to and then managing the back end of that. And what I will say is this can be a tremendously difficult period for a lot of people, especially if it's the first time you've been through this. The leaner you get, often the harder that reverse is out of it. But it's so important, not just from a physical aspect in terms of health management, but also from a mental aspect and a performance aspect, because a lot of the time this can really set up the next phase of your training. So if you're looking to grow tissue, it's really important that you manage this period. From a physical aspect, if you go out and binge, there's a lot of water being held. It's just not a healthy place to be. From a mental aspect, obviously, there's a body image sort of part of that as well, in terms of, okay, you've been the leanest you've ever been, more than likely, and then you have to regain that weight because it's just not healthy and really sustainable to stay at that level of leanness, especially for competition guys as well. For photo shoot people, it can be a little bit different. You can maintain a certain level of leanness because it doesn't require that same level of condition. But for the most part, we're going to reverse out of that because often calories get very low, cardio can get extremely high, and it's just not a good place to be. So if this is the first time you've ever dieted to low levels of body fat, it is incredibly challenging. It's really important to be aware of this time. And I think, as a coach, it's something that I will push on clients as well, is making them aware that this is something that you're going to feel a certain way. If you've never done it, people think it's going to be like a very easy transition, but often it's not. So talk with your coach and have a plan. And something that I will stress to clients is, if your prep, for example, is 16 weeks, it's not 16 weeks, it's 20 weeks. It goes 4 weeks beyond that. And often that's enough time, with a well sort of managed reverse to actually start feeling better, not have the same amount of cravings, get used to it. But a lot of people will just maybe book a holiday 3 days after a show or a shoot. And honestly, it's one of the worst things you can do, because from a physical aspect, you're still trying to recover. From a mental aspect, you will want to eat absolutely everything, and you will put a lot of body fat and a lot of body water on and a lot of body weight, and you simply won't feel good. So I think it's important, if you are going to be booking holidays, make it 4 weeks. Make it 4 weeks after your show. Make it 4 weeks after your shoot, when things start to sort of stabilize and settle down. We want to do this phase properly. It's almost, I would say, as important, if not more important, than the actual prep itself. How are you going to feel? So insatiable hunger would be one. I've experienced this myself, and obviously I coach a lot of clients. No matter what you eat, you will not feel full. We kind of play, as you diet down, your hormones become a little bit dysregulated. So we've got leptin and ghrelin, both sort of regulate hunger and regulate your fullness. They're completely skewed. So no matter what you eat, you can eat as much as you want. You're going to just continue to overeat, and you'll start making yourself feel very, very sick. A lot of the time when people are so focused, especially during a prep, and they come out the other end, it's like a feeling of a little bit of a loss of direction and a lot of focus. You'll have energy swings, and there's also this potential to overanalyze your body image, because they say, you have been at your leanest, what you would view maybe as your best, and something that you've been working towards. But it's very important to try and change that mindset and see this time as, this is progression. This is me now moving forward, wanting to get more more muscle tissue, get stronger in the gym. And it's a lot of it is how you view it, and having somebody that you can communicate with and talk with is really, really important at this time. And not overanalyzing yourself, not overanalyzing your scale weight too much, but it is important to be aware of it as well. We don't simply just want to hide from it. We need to be aware of it, because with anything we do, especially when it comes to contest prep, there is a trade-off, and we have to be willing to accept that trade-off, because it's part of the game. It's part of the game that we've signed up to. Things you shouldn't do, and trust me, I've done a lot of these myself, and I see clients do it. Before your prep ends, start following all the food pages on social media. I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat that, I'm going to stockpile food, pile the cupboards full of chocolate, Reese's peanut butter cups, donuts, people making you cakes. Do not do that, right? Pay too much attention to what everyone else is doing. You see a lot of guys, a lot of girls, especially when they come off stage, feeding themselves full of donuts. And while, okay, having one or so is fine, it can kind of rub off on other people, and you start viewing and go, maybe I should do that, maybe I need that, maybe I deserve that as well. As I said previously, stockpiling food, if it's not in the house, it makes you think twice, because you have to go out and actually buy it. And if you really want it that much, you can go out and buy it. But if you have a huge stockpile of food in the house for post-show, it's likely to lead to huge binge eating, and then that leads to real food issues. What I see a lot of people do is writing a list of places they're going to go and eat straight after. You're going to Five Guys, going here, we're going McDonald's, and I think, again, it's a huge attention and food focus, and try and actually take the attention away from food focus and think about, again, what the next goal is, what you achieved during that prep, how you felt, the things that you learned from that. Booking a holiday, as I said, a few days post-show, not the way to go. Wait 4 weeks, and then consistently analysing yourself, weighing yourself, feeling yourself. Like what I would say, I'm currently coming up to about a week post-show now, and while I'll still check in, it'll be once or twice a week. I'll see where I'm at, but also I've done it before. The more you do this and go through this process, the easier it should be. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it certainly gets easier with time and experience, just like everything else does. What should you do? Okay. First of all, I think this is so important. See, within a couple of days of somebody coming off stage or doing a photo shoot, I'm on the phone with my client. We're having a conversation. We're setting out new goals, new plans, periodizing that. For myself, I've got a 2-year goal. I want to compete in 2026. So what do I need to do now in order to be the best I can be in 2026? Having like a meal plan set up for you. So I think that's important too. Is like, okay, these are the calories we're going to go on. You're not going to be on the same calories you were when you were dieting. They're going to be more. Again, we need to recover. That is so important because you accumulate so much fatigue when you do these and you get the low levels of body fat that we need to come out of that. We need to freshen up. We need to get sleep back, like health back, feeling good, feeling yourself back. So we need to have some sort of like meal plan idea. And that's what I'll do very, very quickly with the client is go, right, there's where we want to be within the next few weeks. There's where we want to be within the next few months. Like performance goals as well is really important too, because, a lot of the time towards the back end of prep, training becomes a little bit sluggish. We don't really enjoy it. We want to get back into why we started, which is really, for a lot of people, the love of training. Another thing I would suggest is continuing with the same sort of foods that you were eating during your diet phase, just in higher quantities, because often they're much more satiating foods. And as I said beforehand, you will never really feel full for a few weeks. That will take some time. So if you're eating more highly sort of calorically dense foods that are much like more palatable, it's often you can overeat it. Where again, if you were eating potato and salad and chicken during your diet, I would stick with that just in higher quantities. How you view it as an improvement/recovery phase. So this is still a way of you improving. I think people see their body getting slightly softer and they see it as like it's a return to old ways when it's not, because it's planned out. And plan out them 4 weeks as part of your prep phase. Trust me. So how can we slowly, over time, increase calories alongside recovery, alongside body weight, alongside training performance? Remember, like food is going nowhere. And if you manage this phase properly, you'll be able to eat an abundance of food in your off season. Like this is the thing. I think a lot of people, you forget at the end of your off season, you didn't want to even eat food. You didn't want to look at food. But now it's all you can think about. And the grass is always greener. That will happen again. And if we don't manage this well, what you'll find happens to a lot of people is within a week or so, they're already 20, 25, 30 pounds above their stage weight. And they're nearly in a place where they need to diet again, but they're not in the position to because they're still carrying high levels of fatigue. They've still got a huge food focus there. But realistically, that's the off season done. And you end up in this yo-yo dieting phase where you never really feel good. You're never really making progress. Where if we can slowly and incrementally come out of that, it allows us to be in a surplus for much longer. The longer we're in a surplus for, the longer we can build muscle for. And ultimately, that's the goal. If you're in this for the right reasons, it's about, getting better every year, being more competitive, building more muscle and bettering yourself. But if you're just in it just to step on stage and get a few photos, then often it's for the wrong reasons. And you will turn to food as an emotional thing, as something that just is going out of fashion when it doesn't need to be the case. So really think about, the reason you're in it for, because it makes a big, big difference moving forward with things. Reverse dieting. And this is something you'll hear, people talking about. It used to be really popular in the past, like very slowly adding calories in, maybe 100 calories a week. You used to hear people talking about. That's extremely hard to do. Like there's two trains of thoughts here, right? When it comes to reverse dieting, it's very slow increments on the way up, or it's get a little bit more food in to begin with, get healthy, get back to feeling normal. Often sleep goes. I know my sleep goes, so I need my body weight up, my body fat levels up to start feeling better. And then from that point, once like body weight starts to stabilize, then you can start slowly increasing calories. So just to give you an example of this, but the back end of my diet, I was on, let's say 2,600, 2,800 calories per day because we reversed out, maybe around 30 to 40 minutes cardio daily, 12K steps. From pretty much the get-go, I put my calories up to around 3,800. I was doing 20 minutes of cardio 6 days a week, and steps are around 8K. So you can see there, I've dropped a lot in terms of output, and I've increased a lot in terms of calories. So we'll see an influx in body weight, but then that will stabilize over, say, a week or so. I'll start feeling better, and then from there, we can start slowly incrementing food back up. But this, often I find with people, it's usually a 4 to 6 week phase before you're back feeling fully normal if you do it well and you execute well. Slowly increasing calories looking at your rate of gain. So how much are we gaining on, say, the 3,800 calories I'm on? If we're not gaining anything at all, it's likely we need a little bit more. If we're gaining a lot, then it's likely we need to scale back a little bit. Also, looking at biofeedback markers and recovery. This is the time, especially if you're assisted, maybe 4 weeks post-diet, post-prep, getting some blood work done. Where are your blood markers? What do they look like? Biofeedback. Okay, how much body fat are we holding here? What does your sleep look like? How do you actually feel within yourself? Again, really, what's blood pressure look like? Because if your weight flies up and you're an assisted male bodybuilder, or even a female athlete as well, blood pressure will rise. You will hold a lot of fluid, and that's not a good, healthy place to be for a very long period of time. The leaner you get, the more challenging the reverse is, because obviously these symptoms of diet fatigue are often much higher. So again, within male bodybuilding classes, when the requirement is getting very, very lean, the bounce back can be much greater. Within female classes, it can still be greater, but obviously there's also a psychological component to a female gaining a lot of weight, unfortunately, is that often it's stigmatized more than a guy getting big. The guy get big, where in society it feels like, well, the girl get fat, and that isn't the case. But there is nothing wrong with feeling a little bit unsure of yourself. It's very, very normal, but it's also important to communicate that. As a general rule, what I will say to clients is 10% of stage weight add it back within 4 weeks. So, for example, in this case, you might be 160 pounds within a 4-week spell. 10% of that is 16 pound gain, 176 pounds. And I think that's a good rate, because at that point, okay, we're getting our health back, but we're also keeping body composition in a fairly tight spot. 16 pounds from a very lean physique is still a very good physique. And then from there, you can kind of decide how quick you want your rate of gain into your off season. But I think that's quite a good way to think about it as well. And it gives you a target, really. But a lot of people will gain that within a week, some less. And that is off season really, really ruined to some degree. So think about that general rule. 10% within that 4-week spell is a good sort of a line of thinking. Making improvements post-show. If managed correctly, this is a really good time to add tissue, but it's also a really good time to add body fat. So again, if you're eating like shit, basically if you're eating like a child, you can gain body fat very, very quickly. But if you're eating well, you think about it during that prep, by the back end, your training volume has dropped off a little bit, your training intensity has dropped off a little bit, you're on very low calories, there's not a lot of muscle glycogen, a lot of carbohydrate. So if you slowly add in and sprinkle in a little bit of training volume, a bit better training intensity, some more calories, okay, your body will soak that up and you will grow like a weed. So if you can keep this under control, we can stay in a surplus for longer and grow more tissue. And it's a beautiful spot to be. A lot of people will call it the rebound. I don't really like calling it the rebound because that kind of suggests just throwing everything at it. Whereas if we be very smart, incremental and disciplined, then, you can make some really solid progress in this time. Now, this is just a little bit of a case study of me. This is my very first season post-show. I struggled big time, and I'm happy to admit that because it's made me learn lessons from the first time. I think within a few weeks, I'd gained 20, 25, 30 pounds. Overeating, binge eating, treating myself when I didn't need to be treated. Whereas over the last sort of 2 preps, I've managed that rebound or reverse diet much better. And it's allowed me to stay basically over that spell of, say, 3 years in a surplus for all but for a prep and a couple of small mini diets within there. And that's allowed me to gain over 40 pounds of stage weight from what was, you can see on the left-hand side, a pretty nice-looking men's physique guy to what is now a bodybuilder. But that wouldn't have been possible if I had gained so much post-show. I would then had the diet. I was holding myself back from actually gaining tissue. So the longer you can be in that surplus, the better. But again, it's got to be controlled. There's nothing wrong. You're not a bad person if you fuck up your reverse, I will say as well. It happens to everybody at some point. You're not going to be perfect at this time, but it's trying to be sensible with it. What I would say is, as my piece of advice is, do not stockpile food. Go out and socially eat. I think that's the thing. because also there's controlled portion sizes. When you go to a restaurant, you're not going to order the whole menu because there's a bit of fear of also being judged at that point as well. But you're going to be portion sized. There's nothing wrong with being social, because a lot of the time when we're prepping, we shut ourselves off, we don't let anybody else in, and we take away from our relationships. So going out and being with other people, investing in those relationships and eating with enjoyment and an atmosphere rather than sitting in the house under your bed sheets shoveling Easter eggs down your throat, they're two very different things. So I think like having that set aside, like, okay, on Saturday, we're going out for a nice meal, we're out to watch something, we're out for a walk, we're out for a coffee, have a bun there, that's fine. And especially the further out you obviously go into the off season, the more flexibility you have. But I do just stress in those first few weeks, it's important to have a little bit of time off, maybe on the show night. Again, be sensible with your food choices. Maybe the next day, start thinking, okay, I'll get some protein in, I'll have what I want, but then get back to thinking about what the overall goal is as well, because really it does make a big, big difference. Some people will find this period just much more challenging than others, and there's nothing wrong with that, as I say. However, if you sort of follow these principles, things will run a lot smoother. But stay with your coach. And that's not a plug to me, because a lot of people watching this will not be my client. But your coach should be preparing you for this period. They should talk about it. Okay, what is the strategies we need to put in place here? But also, they know you. A lot of people will just leave their coach post-show straight away. Stay with them. Give them at least that 4 weeks to reverse you properly, get you in a good, healthy position where you feel great, you're ready for off-season. And then if you want to go and do your off-season yourself, that's totally fine. But I would say give your coach the opportunity to at least take you through this phase, because it's so important for your mental and physical health as well. So a shorter presentation today than some of the other ones, but I think it's a really important one, especially as people come towards the end of their seasons. Some people are just starting it, but this is very, very useful information. I think it's something that people can glean a lot from. I will be continuing this education series. If you have any feedback or any topics you want me to cover, just simply drop me a message. If you're wanting to inquire about coaching, drop me a message on Instagram, Neil Rennie Coaching, and I'll be very happy to have the conversation.